Hello students, a very good afternoon to one and all. I know in this situation we are all locked down in our houses for our own safety reasons. Hope all of you are safe and healthy. Now to keep you engaged during this lockdown period because of this COVID-19 pandemic, we are making small efforts to see that your learning continues while being at home also. So in that initiative, I am just giving you a video lesson on chapter 1, class 8 rational numbers. This is a small video which will give you the introduction of the lesson, and we will be discussing the 4 basic properties also. So to do this video, I need to share my presentation with you. So I will be sharing the screen of my PC with you. So it will take a little while. You have to wait patiently. So let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you are looking at my screen now. So I have a presentation made ready for you, which will take you through the introduction of the chapter, and we shall also be discussing 4 basic properties of rational numbers. So let us start with it. Okay, so we are starting with the rational numbers today, and this is not something that is new for you. So we have already discussed on rationals, on how to add rationals, subtract rationals, multiply and divide them in class 7. So quickly we will try to revisit some of the small things that we have learned about rationals and then move on to the properties. So in our video today, we are going to revisit the introduction and the need for the study of rationals. Also, we shall discuss the properties like the closure property, the commutative property, the associative property, and the distributive property for rational numbers. So why rational numbers? Why is it that we have to introduce another system of numbers called the rational numbers? We are already familiar with 3 major groups of numbers, which we have been taking up one after another as we are progressing from one class to another. So we will focus on the number line and try to understand how this system of numbers have grown starting from the counting numbers. So the counting numbers are the ones which start from 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes on. And it was for the purpose of counting that these numbers were first introduced. But as we moved on with counting, then we were introduced with the addition of numbers. Later on, moving on to the subtraction of numbers, which brought in a difficulty. There were instances when we were subtracting numbers, we resulted with, say for example, when we were subtracting 5 minus 5, we ended up with a number which had no quantity, and then it had to be called 0. So the introduction of 0 into the number systems, which included the counting numbers with it, introduced us or brought us to another group of numbers which we called as the whole numbers. So the whole numbers were a combination of 0 with the counting numbers. So after the whole numbers were introduced, we went on with the next operation of multiplication, and then we moved on to division. So all this was getting added on. So there were some instances again when we were subtracting numbers using the whole numbers also. We ended up with instances where when I was subtracting 4 from 2, I ended up with a number which I had not quantified with my whole numbers also. And hence we had to introduce the negative numbers, and hence the number line started moving towards the left of 0. So then we introduced another group of numbers, or the number system still expanded further from the whole numbers to the negative numbers, including the whole numbers, which we have called as integers. So this is how our number line has grown so far. We have the 0 at the center of the number line with the positive integers on its right and the left negative integers on its left. But as we see the number line, we are definitely seeing that there are numbers existing between these positive integers and the negative integers. And hence, when we further moved into our operations with numbers using the integers also, we had instances where we ended up with numbers like when I was dividing 1 with 2, I got a number like 1 by 2, which was again not available for me within my integers, and hence the fractions got introduced. And with these fractions, we were able to see the positive side of the number line where numbers started existing between 0 and 1, 1 and 2, etc. So this growth of the number system, once again, I would like to show it to you using my GeoGebra applet, which I have prepared. So I'm clicking on here. It is taking you to that applet where I have prepared a schematic diagram of the growth of the number system. So initially we have this red circle, you're seeing that there. This is nothing but the group of natural numbers or the counting numbers that we started with. Then this grew into a bigger group when we included 0 with the natural numbers and we called them as whole numbers. So whole numbers was a bigger group compared to natural numbers because it had 0 within it. So 0 plus the natural numbers became the whole numbers. Then from the whole numbers, we moved on to the integers, which included the natural numbers, the whole number, and also the negative numbers. And hence it became a little more bigger group, which included natural numbers, whole numbers, and the negative numbers, and it began to be called as the bigger group called integers. Now from the integers, we were moving into the next system of numbers, which were the rationals, because we understood that on the number line, apart from the positive integers and the negative integers, there existed some more numbers between them, and these were nothing but the fractions or the rationals. Later on they began to be called. Now these rationals have come into existence now because the operation of division could be completed only when we introduce the fractions or the rationals with them. So I now here want to show you, before we proceed to the properties of the rational numbers, of course, we have already seen the growth of the number system. Now we should be able to go on and see what are these fractions and how are they different or how are they extended towards the rationals. So before I go there are a quick set of exercises that you may have to complete before we take on the rationals on a whole. So these are small revision exercises which are available on the NROER site, the link for which I have displayed it here now. So you can click on this link and reach there. Now how to reach the link? Yeah, I think I can share it with you in a group, or later on maybe you can open this presentation of mine which I shall share with you. Click on this and you will reach the site where assignments will be open for you to complete. And all these 4 assignments are online. They are available on the NROER site. You can open them and complete, and they are all based on your class 7 content of rational numbers. So it will help you to quickly revise and revisit your concepts. And if in case you have forgotten some of them, you can quickly brush your knowledge there and get back. So I'll just click on one and show you so that you understand what is there in those assignments. So this is directly taking me to the NROER website. It is a repository where a quiz is loaded based on the rational numbers of class 7. So you can take up this quiz, try to answer the questions, which will totally be content wise based on the class 7 chapter on rational numbers. So you must be able to easily move through it and then complete it so that you are able to recapitulate all those content which is further required for us in this chapter as we proceed. So you can take your time at home and then complete these assignments and get back. So this is a assignment which I'm giving you for today, which you can take it up at home and complete. You don't have to worry that you are not aware of some of the answers. You can still take back your class 7 textbook, go through it once and then take up the quiz also. So the purpose is only to see that you are revisiting those concepts and you make them stronger before you enter the chapter on rationals in class 8. So that is how you reach there. I'm not getting into the quiz because I want you to do it on your own. So I am just showing you where it is available. So we'll get back to our presentation here. So moving on, I was talking about fractions and rationals. What is the big difference between them? Now here I would like to play a small video for you. I may not play the video completely because I just want you to once again understand the difference between what is a fraction and when it becomes a rational, or why it is called a rational. So this is also something which is known to you already, but still I thought because we are on a chapter on rational numbers, we must once again see that we are aware of what are fractions and rational numbers and why are they different and how was the system evolved. So I'll play this video for you now. I only hope that the audio is available for you at your end. Okay, let me try. I'm just playing the video.
Unit fractions could be written as 1 over any natural number, and this natural number was called as denominator. So let's say we have 1 by 7. So 7 here is the denominator. And what does it show on a number line? Now this denominator 7 tells me that unit length has to be divided into 7 equal parts. So I have this unit length and I divide it into 7 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these 7 equal parts. Similarly, from 1 to 2, again this is a unit length. This is also a unit length. So any unit length could be divided into 7 equal parts. And what does 1 by 7 tell me? 1 by 7 gives me one of those equal parts. So 1 by 7 is actually telling me the length of one such equal part. So that is how I can read unit fractions. So 1 by 2 would be, I divide this unit length into 2 equal parts. 1, 2. And half gives me the length of one such part. Similarly, 1 by 3 would be dividing in 3 equal parts, and 1 by 3 is the length of one such equal part. 1 by 4 would be dividing into 4 equal parts, and 1 by 4 indicates the length of one such part. Similarly, we have 1 by 5, length of one part when a unit is divided into 5 equal parts, and so on. I can get 1/6 also. What we observe is that as I'm increasing my denominator, 3, 4, 5, 6, what is happening is that the length is shifting towards the left of half. So I have half, I'm shifting towards the left. What I observe is that these unit fractions could not represent all the numbers from 0 to 1. From 0 to half, I'm getting all the numbers. But in between half and 1, I could not get any number which was being represented by a unit fraction. So what do? Now Egyptians came up with a unique way of adding unit fractions till we get a desired number which was greater than half but still less than 1. For thousands of years, only unit fractions were accepted. But later, when they started adding unit fractions to get a desired number, which was greater than half and less than 1, those fractions were called as common fractions then. Let us see what these common fractions were. So we know that 1 by 3 is the length of one part when this unit is divided into 1, 2, 3 equal parts. Now if I add 1 by 3 to this, I see that this number is greater than half but is less than 1. So this is what I wanted, a number which was more than half and less than 1. Similarly, what they see is that if they add 1 by 4 two times, 1 and 2, then they see that they get the same length as half. And similarly, if they add one more 1 by 4, then that number would actually be more than half and less than 1. So what they observed was that 1 by 4 added 2 times was same as half. So 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 was 2 by 4, which was same as half. Now again, if 1 by 4 was added again. So if I add one more 1 by 4, I get 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4, which is 3 by 4. So what they observed is that this 3 by 4, now this fraction 3 by 4 did not have 1 at the top. The number at the top was not 1. It was no more a unit fraction. They got very common later on, and hence they were called as common fractions. Now common fractions could have any number at the top and any number as denominator. So these numbers were represented as P by Q, where P and Q could be any integers now. So we know that 4 and Q were called the denominators. The number at the top was called as numerator. So 3 and P, which is the number at the top, was called as numerator. And we already know that the number at the bottom was called as denominator. So I have this fraction, common fraction 3 by 4, where 3 is the numerator, 4 is the denominator. Now what does 3 by 4 tell me? We know the denominator indicates how many divisions should this unit length have. That is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I divide the unit length into 4 equal parts. What does 3 indicate? 3 indicates the number of such units. 1, 2, 3. So 3 of such units gives me 3 by 4. So 1 by 4 added 3 times gives me 3 times 1 by 4. Repeated addition of 1 by 4 is 3 times 1 by 4, which was nothing as 3 by 4. So we realize that a common fraction is nothing but a multiple of unit fraction. So now 1 by 4 is a unit fraction. So the common fraction turned out to be a multiple of unit fractions. So I can say that common fraction P by Q would be P times 1 by Q, which is a unit fraction. So this common fraction again became a multiple of unit fraction. So now we see that integers could not always represent the result of division. So I introduced fractions. Now I expand my number system. I include these fractions also to integers. Integers plus fractions would give me a collection of numbers which I call as rational numbers. Rational numbers could be represented as P by Q, that is as a common fraction. But the important thing was that Q could not be 0. Why? Because dividing by 0 was meaningless. So we could not have Q as 0. That is how we defined rational numbers. Now we said that rational numbers included both integers and fractions. Now this is a fraction. When would this be an integer? When Q would be 1. So as soon as Q is 1, this number P by Q, the rational number P by Q, represents an integer. So for that I can say that any number, say 2, say 10, any integer could be written as a fraction. How? If I put it, if I make the denominator 1, I can write this integer 2 as a fraction. 2 by 1, 10 by 1. So any integer can be written as a fraction. Similarly, any fraction with the base 1, any fraction with the base 1 would turn out to be an integer, which is 3. It's the same as.
Okay, I think I stopped the video here. Now we will get back to our presentation. Yeah, I hope that video has helped you to clearly understand how the rationals got introduced and how they were different from the unit fractions that we started with. So that's the reason why I wanted you to listen to that video. So moving forward next, now that we have got a complete overview of why the rationals were required and how they evolved, now we go on with the properties of the rational numbers. So going on to the next slide. So we have 4 major properties, as I already told you. So we will take them up one by one. So the first one is the closure property. So let us first try to understand the property so that we are able to apply them in such instances and see whether it is getting verified. So the closure property. If A and B are any two rationals such that A plus B is also a rational, that is when I take any two rationals in random and try to add them, and if the sum also happens to be a rational, then we can surely say that the rationals are closed under division. So I get back the sum as one of the elements of the group of rational numbers. Then I say that the closure property gets satisfied for the operation of addition on rationals. So this we will see it with an example, like I have taken two rationals. Deliberately I have taken a positive rational and a negative. So I have taken 1 by 2 as my first rational and negative 1 by 3 as my second rational. So when I try adding them, as you see, it will become 3 minus 2 whole divided by 6, which becomes 1 by 6. And this 1 by 6 is again a rational because we are able to see I can write this in the form of P by Q, where P and Q are both integers, 1 and 6. Now, as I have verified the closure properties for addition of rationals, you can go ahead and try to verify the same and tell us whether the operation of subtraction and multiplication also, do they become closed, or in other words, are rational closed under subtraction and multiplication. So this is another small thing that you have to try on your own and verify and get back to me to tell me whether they are closed under subtraction and multiplication or not. So moving further, the next operation, which is the division. Now let us see what happens when I try to divide two rationals. So again, I have deliberately taken a negative rational divided with a positive. That is negative 5 by 3 divided by 2 by 5, which happens to give me negative 25 by 6, because I know for the second rational, I have to take the reciprocal and multiply that with the first rational. So this is how I get the quotient there as negative 25 by 6. And I definitely know that my negative 25 by 6 is going to be a rational because it is written in the form of P by Q, where both my P and Q are integers, P being negative 25 and Q being 6. But is this always true? There is a question that we have to ponder on over this. Suppose I have an instance where I have a rational divided by another rational and I end up with a quotient like say A divided by 0. Will we be able to reach such a kind of situation at any point of time? Yes, definitely, because 0, we all have understood that it is a rational. So if my numerator happens to be any rational, say A, say it can be a fraction, it can be an integer, it can be a positive integer, it can be a negative integer or anything like that. But when I fix my denominator as 0, then I end up with a rational called A by 0, which I very clearly know is an undefined quantity. So this is an anomaly. We are not able to clearly say that at all instances when I divide one rational with another, I would definitely end up only with a rational, because I have given you an example where sometimes you may end up with a 0 in the denominator and our argument still holds because Q or 0 is a rational only because it is 0. Then in such an instance, I am ending up with an undefined quantity, which means I cannot generalize that rationals are always closed under division, because there are instances where the denominator may become 0 and hence we will end up with an undefined quantity and hence our verification becomes false. And hence we cannot generalize that rationals are closed under division. This is a very important property that you have to remember, and hence I have highlighted this and I did the verification myself. So I hope you have understood this. So that was about closure property. Now moving on, we have the second property, which is the commutative property. Again, let us first try to understand the commutativity. If A and B are any two rationals, and if A plus B is definitely equal to B plus A, that means if I change the order of addition between the two rationals, I end up with the same result both on the LHS and the RHS. If such a thing happens, then I can clearly go and generalize that addition is commutative for rational, because I'm performing the operation of addition on rationals and it holds good irrespective of the order in which I am adding the rationals. So whether I add it as a plus b or b plus a, always my result holds true. So this I have shown you with an example. So here I have taken two rationals, 1 by 5 and 3 by 4. And when I try to add them, you have seen it is 4 plus 15 whole divided by 20, which is nothing but 19 by 20. Now I have reversed the order of addition. I have taken 3 by 4 and I'm adding it to 1 by 5. Again, I see that I get 15 plus 4 whole divided by 20, which again happens to be 19 by 20. So you can see when I add it as a plus b or b plus a, I always get the same result on both the sides. And hence the generalization holds good that addition is commutative for rationals. Similarly, you should be able to verify that multiplication is also commutative for rationals. So this you can do it yourself. You can take any two rationals, try to multiply them, change the order of the multiplication in the second step, and see if you are still resulting with the same product. If such a thing happens, then you can generalize that the multiplication is commutative for rationals. No, but what about subtraction and division? Do you think they are going to be commutative for rationals? So this is something which will interest you. Try to take any two rationals and keep on trying if when you subtract them, irrespective of the order in which you take them, it may be A minus B or B minus A. Do you still believe that the results would be the same? Yes or no, you should be able to verify on your own. The same instance for the division. When I divide A with B or B with A, will my result be the same? So this is a verification that you have to do it yourself and get back to me in the next class. So let us see how many of you are able to successfully generalize based on the examples that you've taken. So that brings me to the third property, which is the associative property. Again, to first understand the property, here I am going to associate two rationals. That is why the property itself is called associative property, means to group together. Associate is to group. So instead of two, now I'm going to have a set of three rationals with me. So for any three rationals, say A, B, and C, if this condition of grouping B and C together first and then adding the sum to A is equal to grouping A and B first together and adding their sum to C. In other words, when I take it as A plus B plus C, or I take it as A plus B plus C, then we say that the addition becomes associative for rationals if the results on the LHS and the RHS remain the same. So this can be verified. Again, now in the place of two rationals, because it is an associative property, so minimum we must have three rationals with us. I have chosen negative 2 by 3, 3 by 5, and a negative 5 by 6. And I'm trying to associate the left hand side now. So I take the first rational as it is as negative 2 by 3. I associate B and C, that is positive 3 by 5 and negative 5 by 6. Try to add them. I'm getting a negative 7 divided by 30. So this is the sum of B and C, which in turn is added to A. And hence after the addition, I see that I'm getting a negative 27 by 30. Or in other words, it is negative 9 by 10. So that was association of B and C and then getting added to A. Now moving on to the right hand side, now I associate A and B first and then add the sum to C. So I have a negative 2 by 3 added to 3 by 5, which gives me a negative 1 by 15, which is the sum of these two rationals I have associated. And then it is getting added to the third rational, that is negative 5 by 6. And hence I get the sum as negative 27 by 30, which is once again nothing but 9 by 10. So I'm seeing the LHS and the RHS, both of them have come out to be negative 9 by 10. So my generalization should hold true that when I add A plus B plus C, it is the same as adding A plus B with C, or it is A plus B plus C. So this was associative property for addition of rationals. So what would happen if I subtract, multiply, or divide the rationals using the associative property? Do you think still this property will hold good, whether it is multiplication, subtraction, or division. So again, the task is for you to verify whether I can say the property of associativity is true for subtraction, multiplication, and division of rationals. So lots of work waiting you. So go ahead and try to complete these verifications on your own. So moving on to the last property that we have for today, that is the distributivity of multiplication over addition and subtraction. So I'm distributing something here. That's why the property is called a distributive property. So I go ahead distributing the operation of multiplication over addition and subtraction. So we'll go one by one. First, we shall try to distribute multiplication over addition. So again, because we are going to distribute something between the rationals, I need a minimum of 3 rationals taken at a time. So for any 3 rationals, say A, B, and C. This is how my property will go on. It is A multiplied with B plus C should be equal to AB plus AC. So I have distributed the multiplication of A over the sum of B and C. So A multiplied with B plus C is the same as AB plus AC. So this needs to be verified before it is generalized. So to start with, again, I have the 3 rationals, negative 3 by 4, 2 by 3, and negative 5 by 6. First of all, I try to add the B and C, and my sum happens to be negative 1 by 6 here. So this negative 1 by 6 is multiplied with negative 3 by 4, and my product comes out to be 3 by 24, which is nothing but 1 by 8. So this was the distribution of negative 3 by 4 over the addition of B and C. Now, if this has to be verified, I have to go on to the right hand side and see whether AB plus AC also happens to become 1 by 8. So my A, negative 3 by 4 multiplied with 2 by 3 happens to be negative 1 by 2. And once again, my B, A into C, which is negative 3 by 4 into negative 5 by 6 happens to be 5 by 8. And now when I take the sum of this AB and AC, I get it as negative 1 by 2 plus 5 by 8, which is none other than 1 by 8. So I'm seeing that the LHS and the RHS, that is A multiplied by B plus C, is definitely equal to AB plus AC. So I have seen that the distribution of multiplication over addition stands true for rationals. So you must go ahead and try to find out whether the distribution of multiplication over subtraction also holds good for rationals or doesn't that hold good. So one more property for you to verify. So I think this is it for today. From here, we have gone through all the 4 major properties of rational numbers. So I hope I have been helpful to get some kind of insight into the properties on this online video that I'm giving you. So please go ahead and practice them. Now I think I'll stop sharing my screen. I get back to my original screen. Okay, so I think we have learned a lot, and a lot requires to be verified by you yourself with examples taken. So that should make you more curious to see whether all the generalizations that I have been talking so far can be verified with simple examples from your side. So please try them sincerely. And we will meet again with another video with the next part of the lesson shortly. So before that, try to see that you complete all the activities given here and stay indoors, stay safe. Thank you very much.